And let me tell you, no one claimed that he was unintelligent or that there was some level of decline to where he was unable to comprehend or unable to perform. That did not exist. And so the fact that we buy into these false narratives, the fact that we're even having this conversation when literally Joe Biden is not the president, and right now whatever harms that are going to be suffered by the American people have nothing to do with Joe Biden, because we didn't have to worry about the stock market crashing every other day when Joe Biden was in office. We didn't have to worry about whether or not people were going to have their Medicaid when Joe Biden was in office. We didn't have debates about whether or not people would have Social Security when Joe Biden was in office. So let me tell you, if Joe Biden was like mentally deficient in some way and he was still able to keep this sucker on the tracks, then give me a mentally deficient Joe Biden any given day over Donald Trump.
It is very easy to get under Donald Trump's skin, but to live rent-free in his head, that takes a special set of skills which are clearly possessed by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who of course has been the #1 voice in calling out this administration for its corruption, its criminality. And now for Donald Trump's health scandal, which the mainstream media refuses to cover, but Jasmine Crockett is going to make sure that they do, including the Fox propaganda outlet who discussed what Jasmine Crockett had to say. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way. And it really does mean a lot to me now, before we can get into Fox's meltdown over what Jasmine Crockett had to say. Let's first start and hearing her out. Right here.
Let's say you were elected to ranking member and the Democrats take the House and you become chair of that committee. Would you pursue impeachment?
I would absolutely at least do an inquiry. Absolutely. I mean, I think that there's more than enough to inquire about. You know, we know. Well, we don't know. We still don't even know. I brought up Elon Musk a little bit earlier. We don't understand what all they were doing, what kind of deals were even made for Elon to be given this amount of privilege. The firing of the inspectors generals, you know, he went in, next thing you know, inspector generals that were investigating Elon, they're getting fired. And then the pressure that he's put on various organizations. We saw that the merger with Verizon was able to take place only once they said no diversity, equity, or inclusion. We know that they have put a ridiculous amount of pressure and seemingly are trying to pull back resources from the likes of Harvard, because Harvard decided that they were going to push back against this illegality. We know that he's shaken down so many of these law firms for free legal fees, because he's gonna need them, because the one thing that we know is that he likes to violate the law, whether it's criminal or civil. So these things need to be fleshed out, and we need to fully understand. And in fact, that's the Trump stuff. And the reason I bring up the Trump stuff is because there is one committee in the Congress that has the authority to actually do oversight over the president. It's the Oversight Committee. It is the only one that has that ability. And so I think that we need to make sure that we do it. I think that no matter what happens, history needs to know the truth.
Two last questions here. You said recently it's time for Republicans to start talking more about President Trump's mental acuity. And obviously they did that when President Biden was in office. Why do you think that they should do that now?
Well, listen, and I'll tell you, I mean, I'll go down defending Joe. I can't tell you that I've ever had an incident where I questioned Joe Biden's mental acuity, and definitely had no questions about the people that he surrounded himself with, that's for sure. Yeah. Now, when you are at a West Point graduation and you spend time talking about trophy wives, when you spend time talking about how you've been investigated to the likes of a Al Capone, when you like spend your time like literally in a very serious solemn moment that should be one of solemnness but also of celebration for people that have decided that they are going to commit themselves, and some of them may even end up losing their lives in service of our freedoms in this country, and this is what you decide to do while wearing a MAGA hat. Like I don't know how you can look at that. I don't know how you can look at, and maybe he's just illiterate, because you know there also was the issue with him reading a teleprompter recently, and he could not say the words that were on the teleprompter as it relates to crypto. So I'm like, I just think that we really, really, really need to wonder. This is the guy that would go off about sharks and whales and windmills and all the things. I mean, seriously, if it was me as just a member of Congress, I wouldn't be anywhere near being a U.S. representative. So how he's become the president of the United States is still beyond me, and how he continues to operate in this very ridiculous fashion. I mean, all you got to do is read the script, sir. Just read. And I know that stuff isn't on the script, right? And he can't even do that.
Jasmine Crockett is spot on. It is very, very clear and obvious that Donald Trump is in decline. He is more erratic than ever. He is more out of it than ever. He is slurring his words. His posts get more insane every single day. And it's getting to the point where even the mainstream media, yes, the mainstream media, who actually always refuses to do its job, is starting to cover this. And that includes the Fox propaganda outlet. And of course, they were covering what Jasmine Crockett had to say rather than facts themselves. But what they said at the end of this clip, it'll make you laugh and really stick with you.
Back to Sunday Night in America. Republicans were in the wilderness after President Obama won, and so-called experts shared free advice, which was worth exactly what we paid for it. And now Democrats are in the slough of defeat. If Jasmine Crockett is a thought leader of the party, Democrats will stay in the wilderness longer than Moses did.
I mean, he literally sounds like someone who is broken out of the insane asylum. Like, he just be all over the place. Like, get him some ADHD medicine, if nothing else, because I don't know where he's ever going to go. It is time for Republicans to start calling him out and start questioning his mental acuity and whether or not he is equipped to serve mentally. We know when it comes down to his criminality, he is not qualified to serve. But this is just absolutely deplorable.
You know, it's hard to know where to start with Ms. Crockett. She mocked the governor of Texas for being paralyzed. She conflates attention deficit disorder with insanity, which is both cruel and medically stupid. What she's really saying is that a majority of her fellow citizens voted for someone who's insane. So what does that make us? Here's some free political advice. Insulting voters typically is not a pathway to success.
They're just so close to getting it, aren't they? Yes. Donald Trump is in decline. Like, we're just so close to actually saying those words, but you can't, I guess, quite articulate them yet. The man has obviously lost it. And what makes it all the more scary is the fact that as he loses it, he becomes more power hungry within our federal government. Donald Trump is running our economy and running it into the ground based off of his broken brain, alone with the stupidest trade war in history, and even his own party hates it. This is an erratic man who we cannot allow control our government anymore. That is why I'm glad Jasmine Crockett is calling out Donald Trump's clear cognitive decline, and of course his big, beautiful bill as well, that she smacked down in this interview right here.
You spent the week hearing from constituents. What kind of questions do they have about this? This is the first time you've talked to them.
Yeah.
I presume since it's passed.
Yeah. You know, I think that it's always important that we go home and we talk to the people that are going to be impacted and find out what it is that they know and find out what it is that concerns them the most. The number one question I had is, do people understand why this bill is bad and why there is nothing beautiful in it? And I can tell you that Texas 30, God bless them, because they listen to real news and they absolutely understand that these cuts are devastating and there is no good reason for the cuts. So that's number one. Number two, you know, I think that the Republican Party has tried to run away from Elon Musk for sure. But Elon Musk still looms. And so there were definitely still questions about the things that Doge did, because honestly, now we're talking about cuts to SNAP. Now we're talking about cuts to Medicaid. And so people are trying to kind of figure out, well, was this Doge? What's happening? What is Doge doing? And so I had to actually go through and explain that Doge really was supposed to be advisory. That is all it ever was supposed to do. I had to go ahead and reassert that it is Congress that has the power of the purse, and that Congress should have been listening to recommendations and then making a final decision. But ultimately, DOJ was going in and doing all kinds of random stuff, things that we still don't know the full extent of what it is that they've done.
Without Congress at all.
Without Congress.
And your constituents were asking about this, asking about DOJ.
They were asking about Elon. Which Elon is synonymous for Doge.
Sure.
And then, they were concerned about their Social Security. So they said, are the Social Security cuts in this as well? And I said, no. But I did explain to them that they are trying to choke off resources in a lot of different ways. So while it may not be on the balance sheet, when you start to shut down Social Security offices, when you start to get rid of the personnel, you end up in this bottleneck where people cannot access the resources that they need. And so this is a better way of saying, oh, this is just inefficient government, instead of saying that we directly targeted Social Security. It's a more indirect targeting that they are doing on things such as Social Security, as well as Veterans Affairs.
The Republican spending bill also, it increases property tax deductions, which is helpful to Texas. It also eliminates taxes from tips and overtime. That's a benefit for your constituents as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you can say that. Not really. I mean, here's the reality. There are so many of our workers that work on tips that literally are not making ends meet to the extent that they even are required to pay a hefty portion as it relates to income taxes in the first place. That's number one. Number two, if you were talking about an impact that was somewhat proportional, then yeah, maybe I would agree with you. But if you're going to get rid of tax on tips, a lot of people that work on tips don't necessarily even have health care, right? And so now it's like, well, you know what? I do need those extra dollars that I'm going to have in my pocket, because guess what? The cost of my health care is going up. Guess what? The cost of all the goods around me are going up because of the horrible, or some would say horrific, tariff policies that have been implemented. Like, it's not really giving you anything, because we're taking more away from you than we're giving you. So it's just a gimmick so that hopefully they can build upon a group of people that is beyond just the billionaires. They need to bring somebody else in to believe that this bill is going to help them as well.
What do you expect the bill to look like, though, when it leaves the Senate? Do you think it'll resemble what the House passed?
No, I don't. I think
what won't make
that it? So here's the deal. When you look at House members, our districts are approximately 766,000 people. And depending on your district, you may not have one hospital in it. But when you start talking about, say, the Senate side, especially some of our senators that are coming from these big, very rural states, they understand a lot better than somebody who say, I'm going to vote this way because I don't want to be on Trump's bad side, versus that senator who says, you know what, this means we're going to have less hospitals. I'm going to have X amount of hospitals in my state that are going to shut down because of a lack of resources. Or it's the senators that understand that more people in rural America use SNAP benefits than urban America. And they're saying, listen, these people aren't going to be able to eat. But more importantly, because I'm from this big rural state, my farmers, they're not going to be able to survive either, because just because you remove $330 billion from the ecosystem, which is the amount that they pulled out for SNAP, it doesn't mean that money comes back in. So if you're that farmer that is trying to anticipate and plant, you know what? Now there's going to be this money that's out. It doesn't just reappear because we removed it from the federal government. So now you're talking about the farmers that are going to struggle. So I think that the senators, because their constituency is an entire state and they have to deal with all the issues, I know that the Senate is going to give us something different. Now, how different and where those differences will lie, we'll only find out in time.
Can we clone Jasmine Crockett? Can we have like 20 of her? I just feel like that would solve so many problems if there was more Jasmine Crockett in this world. But we're going to do our best to uplift her voice and try to fight like she does on this show every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.